Welcome to Law Talk with Peter Meyer.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Law Talk with Peter Meyer. I'm Matt Skye. Peter provides personal and professional representation for personal injury and wrongful death cases across Georgia, empowering injured individuals to recover financially and hold those responsible accountable. Peter, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Matt. Good to see you.
So, Peter, let's jump right in. Can you outline for us the immediate steps individuals should take if they're involved in a motor vehicle accident?
Excellent question. First of all, just make sure you get the insurance information from all of the drivers involved. A lot of this is common sense, but when the adrenaline pumping or injuries or somebody crying in the car, sometimes it's hard to focus. So I say get the essential information from the drivers, the name and ideally the phone number of all witnesses. A lot of times these don't make it onto the accident report. And that also applies to passengers. I cannot tell you how many times over the years, and I've handled thousands and thousands of car accidents, the accident report might leave passengers off when it lists them, and we have to go back and try to correct that. So, make sure that you get the names, make sure that the officer is aware of everybody that was in the vehicle. If you have some time at the scene, get photographs of both vehicles and get photographs before they're moved if it's possible. This can be crucial to proving what happened. A lot of times, we're fighting over who was at fault. Especially if it's one driver and one vehicle and one in another, you get into a he said situation. These photographs can really make a big difference in showing what happened. Also, photograph the scene. If it's an intersection, try to get a picture of that. Skid marks in the roadway can be crucial. Accident debris, where it is located. That evidence, I've had situations where not even us, the client took a picture, didn't even think twice about it. And then fast forward a few months later, I'm fighting with the insurance company and I bring in an expert to show the defendant was speeding. And based on the length of the skid marks, the damage to the vehicle, etc., we can establish that the other driver was speeding. And we have to do that all the time. So all of that's important. Take as many pictures as you can of everything, because one piece of evidence can make or break a case. I had a client that had a dash cam, very serious accident. If they didn't have that dash cam video, it would have been really tough to prove that case. And so that's incredibly important to get all of that at the scene and then make sure that, you get the medical treatment that you needed.
And just curious, I think that's great advice to take as many photographs as you can, but what do you do when a client comes to you and they don't have that much photographic evidence, or any for that matter?
That's one of the reasons you want to hire somebody who is a specialist in accident cases and injury and death cases, because whenever possible, we will go to the scene and get whatever evidence we can. And we have won cases based on that legwork, that detective work that is challenging and sometimes fun, sometimes dangerous. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a trucking case. My client was in a cement truck going one way on one of those 2-lane country roads. So he's going in one direction and a tractor trailer is coming the other direction. And my client's version is that this tractor trailer crossed into his lane, hit his cement truck, which proceeded to roll over, and he was ejected from the vehicle. He had just absolutely horrific injuries, head injury. He didn't even, he didn't remember everything, but he did say that guy came across and hit me. The other driver who hit him said, "Oh no, I was on my side of the road and he came across and hit me." The officer at the scene, he was, dealing with massive wreckage and, multiple injuries. He didn't really have time to do an investigation. So long story short, I go out there with my case manager and my investigator, and we take pictures of everything and we map out everything. And as we're going through the case, we noticed that the front tire on the tractor trailer that hit my client was blown out and seriously damaged. That driver said that happened when my client came across and hit him. But in our investigation, one of the pictures, or two of the pictures out of the hundreds that I took that day, showed gouge marks in the roadway from the rim of the tractor trailer's driver on my client's side of the road, which is where the impact happened. Those pictures won my client that case. And just as an aside, he had gone to some TV lawyer, and the TV lawyer said, they're offering you $10,000, take it, because we can't show who's at fault.
Wow.
Long story short, we got that client over $1 million.
Incredible.
In Savannah, Georgia, from doing the work. So that's as clear as an example as I can of going to the scene and finding what when I took it, I didn't even think twice about it. And then I showed it to my client. He goes, that's the gouge mark from his tire. So
I spent a lot of time driving around Savannah. I know what you're talking about with those roads too.
yes, absolutely. Yes. There's lots of accidents on those roads too.
So other than photography, what are crucial next steps individuals should take after leaving a scene to protect their legal rights and their well-being for that matter?
Obviously, report the accident to your own insurance company. You're required under your contract to do that. So if you need to access it, you don't want to delay anything. Now, if you hire a lawyer right away, we can do that for you. But, if you call your insurance company, say, hey, somebody hit me, just let them open up a claim. That's all you need to do. Remember, however, when you're talking to your own insurance company, that they may become an adverse party. So keep it to the basics. Never give a recorded statement. Never sign anything from any insurance company, including your own, until you've consulted with a lawyer. A lot of times they'll have you sign medical releases or things that may waive your rights, or they'll try to take a statement where you'll say something that you think is innocent and it's actually crafted to hurt your case. The insurance company's job is to deny or diminish your case. So they'll use any information against you. Most important also, I'd say equally, this is probably the most important in an injury case. If you're hurting, get medical treatment as soon as possible. I mean, I get it. Nobody likes to go to the doctor, especially guys. I'm the worst offender on that. Insurance companies love delays in treatment. I've had cases that we've had to fight for months and years simply because my client didn't go to the emergency room, didn't have any treatment for 2 weeks. And the insurance company says, well, you clearly weren't hurt. I mean, we all know the world doesn't work that way, but that is their job, to look for anything to use against you. So if you're hurting, go see the doctor, the emergency room, the med stop, anything. Otherwise, they will say that you're not hurt. And, one of the other things throughout the process in the weeks after the accident, if you're out of work, you're entitled to that lost income. So get a doctor's note for disability, save your pay stubs. If you're self-employed, I always tell my clients, start gathering whatever records you can have so I can prove to the adjuster or to the judge or to the jury how much money you were making and how much you lost. And one more thing that a lot of people don't even think about in the days, weeks, and months after an accident. Don't post anything on social media relating to the accident. People
can't help it now. It's just it's a knee-jerk reaction at this point.
I'll tell you what, especially with my younger clients, it's even harder. But, and if don't post yourself mountain climbing or jet skiing because nowadays, one of the tactics that the insurance companies are using the last few years is asking for your social media, and it is discoverable. The courts in Georgia have generally allowed them to go fishing, even after you supposedly delete it. So don't post anything on social media relating to the accident. Try to keep it to a minimal if you're hurting. And those are basically the things. Get your treatment. Don't have gaps in treatment. Treat right away. Tell the doctors everything that's hurting. Document your damages. Those are the essentials in the first few days and weeks.
So we covered photography, but can you also detail any additional evidence someone should capture after an accident for insurance and legal proceedings?
Well, you want to document all of your lost wages. So if you miss time from work, get a note from the doctor, keep track of how much time you're missing. Some people are self-employed and it's more challenging to prove what you earn if you're a contractor or something where you work off the books, work with a lot of cash. Try to document your wages, because I have some cases where the lost wage claim is larger than the medical expenses. So you want to definitely do that in addition to the photographs that you take from the scene and evidence like that. And I always tell my clients, you can also keep a journal of day-to-day stuff, because a lot of times people forget months later what they went through. So I say, keep a journal. It's just for yourself. I don't even want to see it. Just like a little diary, what happened today. And when my clients do that, they'll come, months later when we're talking, they'll say, oh my God, I forgot all about this. I wasn't able to play with my child. And, they were in Little League and little things like that. That's what makes or breaks a case as far as like pain and suffering, is the little things that you lose. So it's not just taking pictures at the scene and documenting your wages. That's pretty black and white. Keep a diary of all the day-to-day stuff. I'm not talking about being overly dramatic. I'm just saying, keep a note of it just for yourself. So when you're talking to me months later and I'm talking to the adjuster, the mediator, the jury, I can relate that. And I'd say those are really the essentials that you want to do.
Would a good word of advice generally be that you can't have too much? Like, it's better to have extra than not enough?
Absolutely. I tell my clients, send me every piece of paper you have, every
Yeah.
picture, and, keep a journal of everything. I'd like to talk about medical treatment in a minute. We'll get into what you need to do when you go to the doctor, because that's important as well.
Yeah. So actually, just on that, let's ask, what do you do when you go to a doctor, and how do you balance your medical treatment with your legal counsel?
Well, as I said earlier, it's important to treat right away. The insurance company will not only use a delay in treatment against you, they'll also use any gaps in treatment. And many times, I've handled thousands and thousands of cases over the last 25 years. I have clients who have multiple surgeries where we don't even know they need surgery for months, in some cases a year or more after the accident. So it's important to go as soon as possible, follow up without gaps in treatment, and listen to what your doctor recommends. If they recommend an MRI or other testing, make sure that you get that done. Do not have gaps in treatment. I mean, that's important medically, obviously, so you get diagnosed, but it's also important legally, because we have to prove the proximate cause. We have to prove that your injuries are due to this accident. And the insurance company will do anything they can to avoid paying for your damages. So if you delay treatment, or if you have big gaps in treatment, the insurance company is going to say that you're not hurt. And I mean, I know that's not a fair argument, but I've handled thousands of these cases, and many of them, it took a long time to get diagnosed. It took a long time to have surgery. And if the longer you delay, the more it allows the insurance company to deny the accident caused your injuries. And they'll offer you less money, or they'll just deny the claim outright. So just make sure that you consistently follow your doctor's instructions. And once you've begun treatment, don't have any gaps in treatment visits. And, just make sure that you get diagnosed and treated in a consistent, orderly way, because we rely on the medical records from the doctor to prove your damages. You can say all day long how much you were hurt, which is important. But if you don't go to the doctor and tell the doctor and follow up with your physical therapy or whatever it is they're recommending, I can't prove it. So I need you to follow through with your treatment. Not overtreat. That's a misconception. Just go regularly and do what the doctor, chiropractor, therapist, whoever tells you to do.
So zooming out a little bit, can you provide an overview of how auto insurance works, and then what types of coverage people should have?
That's really important. And, we deal with that obviously every day. So the most obvious one is if the person who hit you has liability coverage. So if you're at fault, your liability pays for the other person's damages, meaning their property damage, medical expenses, lost wages, and pain and suffering for anybody that you injure. But in Georgia, we have a lot of people who either have no insurance, or what's more common is they have not enough insurance. So if they have no insurance, it's an uninsured driver, duh, But if they don't have enough insurance, it's an underinsured motorist. That's why coverage is so crucial, because it covers you for somebody who is a hit and run or uninsured. But what's more common, it covers you if somebody hits you, and let's say your case is worth $100,000 and they have the minimum liability limits in Georgia, which is 25. Here you are, you're out 75,000. Your coverage picks up the difference between the liability and, the liability is here and the case is worth it. Your coverage picks up that difference. And if I could just elaborate on that for a minute, Matt, the coverage follows you everywhere you go. You could walk out the street and get hit by a car. You could get in your friend's car. You could be on a city bus. Anytime you're injured due to somebody with no insurance or not enough insurance, you can access the on your vehicle. And it's even better than that. If you get what's called add-on, ADD, add-on coverage versus reduced coverage, you can stack all of the household policies on top of each other, resulting in, a lot more money. And so you want to make sure you have add-on coverage. And let me give you an example of why add-on coverage is so crucial. I'll use a case example. So I represented a young lady that was, maybe 20, 21 years old, and she had a hip fracture from an accident. The at-fault driver had $25,000, and they came to me and said, my daughter's seriously hurt, and this person only has $25,000, and they had no idea what was. But luckily, she lived with her father and brothers, and they had all these cars in the yard. Some of them had grass growing up on top of them. Each one of those cars had a policy. And I don't remember if some were 25, one might have been 100,000. We were able to stack those add-on policies. And I believe that lady got about $500,000 in a case where they thought there was only 25,000. So it's so crucial to get the most liability in case you're at fault and get the most to protect you and your family in case somebody doesn't have enough coverage.
So, Peter, we covered a lot of ground. As we wrap up, if you had one major takeaway for everyone, what would that be?
Treat early, listen to your doctors, and consult an experienced personal injury or wrongful death lawyer as soon as possible, because there are a million pitfalls, whether it's proving the case, establishing the damages, or sometimes we're fighting with insurance companies over coverage and which policies apply. And if you wait too long to get represented, you can jeopardize your right or sign away your rights. So call a lawyer for a consultation as soon as you're in an accident, and make sure that they specialize in injury and wrongful death cases.
I think that's a great point to wrap up on. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning into Law Talk. For more information and to connect with Peter Meyer, visit MeyerLawFirm.net and check him out on social media. Peter, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.